Hi there, everyone. Today I'll be sharing my opinions and views on Tomson Highway's The Rez Sisters. This play was first performed in 1986 and is a comedic dramatic production. The play begins with 7 Indigenous women who are living on a reserve in Ontario, and they're given the opportunity to participate in the biggest bingo in the world. The women share throughout the story what they would do with the money and a little bit about their own personal dreams that they have. These 7 women travel together all the way from the reserve to Toronto to participate in this bingo game. The bingo game is hosted by the bingo master, who, unbeknownst to the characters in the story, is actually Nana Bush. Nana Bush, if you're unfamiliar, is a trickster character in many Indigenous stories. And often this Nana Bush character is meant to teach the audience something or give them a better view on different aspects of life. The game unfortunately ends with one of the 7 women passing away due to a disease. And the other women return home with no money, and they just continue to live their normal lives on the reserve. So after the summary, I'm going to give you a little bit about my opinions and my views on the play. So firstly, I'm going to talk about the women's dreams, what they expressed that they would do with this money. So some of the women had very extravagant ideas. One said that she was going to become famous. Another had said that she was going to buy an island and make sure it had lots of trees and a picket fence, that her and her children could live there. But some of the other characters had much smaller dreams. One wanted paved roads for the reserve because they were sick of all the dust flying around from people driving on the gravel ones. Another had said that she wanted a stove because the oven that she had at the time wasn't really working anymore. And lastly, one of the women said that she wanted a toilet because the one that she had at the time just wasn't cutting it anymore. I felt that many of these women who wanted these basic things were looking for necessities that many people, especially in the city or even a small town, don't really think about. They're just there for us. And I feel that that presents the very unfortunate truth about living on some reserves, is that they're not always up to standard. They don't always have the necessities that people need: drinking water, education, things like that. Which leads me into my next point, which is that it was a general consensus among all of the characters and the community in this play that in order to have a better life, you had to leave the reserve. So for example, one of the characters named Emily had to leave both her husband and her children behind on the reserve in order to get away from her abusive husband. Pelage wanted to move to Toronto because she felt that her life on the reserve and the reserve itself was holding her back from living out the life that she wanted. Another character named Annie's daughter had moved to Sudbury, which is a city in Ontario, to live a better life. She went to school there, she met her husband, and she just never came back. And lastly, the women in this story had to travel to Toronto. This opportunity of the biggest bingo in the world and an opportunity that could better their lives wasn't available to them on the reserve. And I feel that all of these examples feeds back into the same idea that sometimes the necessities and the opportunities of people that live on the reserve are not the same as people that live in other communities. And lastly, I want to talk about the women's acceptance of their life on the reserves. When the women came back, it seemed that each woman had just accepted that they're going to live on the reserve, and they just moved on with their lives. And I felt that you could look for this from 2 different views. Firstly, a positive view is that the women found beauty and comfort in the lives that they had on the reserve, and therefore they were happy and content with their lives. And I think a more negative view that you could look at it is that the women lost hope. And that therefore they accepted that their dreams that they had might not come true. And so they accepted that they were going to have to continue on the reserve and just continued their lives, which I think is a really unfortunate but true reality, is that some people fear leaving the reserve because they fear what could happen if they do. That's all I have for you today. Those were just my few points that I wanted to make. Thank you everyone who took the time to watch my video, and I'm excited to watch everyone else's videos and to hear everybody's replies. Thank you. Bye.